Okay. Okay, get it? And then you see like that.
I don't know what's trying.
You can see it from here. When I had it on this one, it just had like a large thing around it, and then they didn't really like do much.
just do that. Let's go.
Okay.
We need to go.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, hello everybody. Thanks for coming out tonight. Welcome to the 8th Annual Board Candidate Forum. Our goal tonight is to get to know the candidates for the board election on April 8th. My name is Hannah Holterman, and I'm an editor-in-chief for FHCtoday.com.
I'm Thomas Ramos, and I'm an editor for Central Focus, our news magazine. Tonight's forum is entirely run by publication students at Howell Central and Francis Howell High School. We ask that candidates and audience members treat each other and our publication staff with respect.
For candidates, please do not talk over each other or exceed the time limits given for each question. We'll start with a 2-minute opening statement from each candidate and then 90 seconds for all the other questions. We'll give a 15-second warning to allow you to finish your thought, but once time is up, you must stop and allow the next candidate to answer.
For audience members, we ask that you respect the candidate's time and maintain orderly behavior. Do not talk over candidates or hold side conversations. Please take only applause until the end of the candidate's answer. Every audience member has been handed an index card, which you may use to write a single question for the candidates. You may only ask one question, and you must write your name on the note card. Students will select and order the questions. Note cards that do not fit the criteria will not be considered for the Q&A.
Okay, and finally, we have an exit poll. Please make sure you fill this out before you leave so we can have some data. It's posted by the doors out there in the hallway down here. That's about it. So thank you for coming out tonight, and let's get started with our 2-minute opening from each candidate.
Good start. Yeah. All right, good evening, everyone. I want to start by thanking the students and the journalism teachers who helped make tonight's event possible, and of course the high school for hosting us. It's great to see so much community involvement. My name's Ashley Sturm, and I'm running for the Francis Howell School Board because I believe that we need leadership that focuses on what actually matters: smart spending, strong schools, and giving teachers the support they need to do their jobs well. Francis Howell is the best district in this county, and we should strive to be one of the best in the state. So for me, that means focusing on measurable student success, ensuring our schools provide a top-tier education, and making sound financial decisions that keep us strong for the long term. 5 years ago, we know the district faced fiscal mismanagement that nearly put us in a crisis, but thanks to stronger oversight, we've made progress, but we've still got work to do. I want to make sure that we stay on the right track, keeping our schools academically strong, retaining top teachers with competitive pay, and ensuring our tax dollars are spent responsibly. I know firsthand the value of a strong education. I grew up on the Gulf Coast of Mississippi, but I chose Missouri for one reason: Mizzou School of Journalism, the best in the country still. That decision set my path. It brought me here and ultimately led me and my family to Francis Howell. Now, as a parent with 3 kids in the district, I'm invested for the long haul. With a 6-year-old, I'm at least invested for the next 12 years at minimum. And I want to make sure we get this right for our students, our teachers, and our families. I look forward to tonight's discussion and earning your vote on April 8th. Thank you.
Okay, hello. Thank you to the students who are facilitating this for us. This is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for the community to be engaged in this process. I'm Sarah Oelke. I'm a community member, I'm a parent, and I'm a teacher. And I'm running for the Board of Education because I want to lend my insights, my expertise, and my experience to help unlock the future for Francis Howell. My vision for our district is simple. We need to provide modern, comprehensive, and holistic education that equips our students with real-world skills. They need to be prepared, they need to be confident, they need to be capable, and they are the future contributors to our community. And this stewardship starts with a focus on our students, it centers around our families, and it is anchored by respect for all of our educators and our staff. Now, lately, our schools have been caught in a lot of unnecessary, polarizing culture wars and divisions that really distract from what truly matters. And I believe that we have to bring back our focus to where it belongs, our students. Our public school district should be a place where our community comes together, not where personal beliefs create fear or barriers. Francis Howell deserves to be known for the academic excellence, the innovation, and the dedicated people who make it all possible, and we should be able to see our name on the top 5 list for the best school districts in the state of Missouri. We are and should be a destination district where teachers are proud to say that they work.
15 seconds.
We should be where young families look for their homes in our service area, and when students are asked, what high school did you go to? Our alumni should say they're proud to go to Francis Howell.
Hi everybody, I'm Amy Gryder and I'm aiming higher for Francis Howell School District. I have lived here most of my life, moved here when I was in 6th grade, came up through our schools, graduated from Francis Howell North in 1994. I've raised my 3 kids through the district, 2 have graduated. I've got a 6th grader still at Barnwell as well. So super committed to this district, super fan of the district as well. I am very passionate about the place of public schools in our community and want to make sure that we continue to thrive. Sarah mentioned, wanting to graduate from a district that you feel really proud of, and that's exactly why I'm here. I have been very proud of this district. I want to continue to be very proud of this district. I think a few years ago, I started paying a little bit more attention to what was happening at the board level and had some concerns, and so started getting more engaged and more involved, and ultimately, here I am today, running to be a part of that decision-making body. I have 3 main priorities for the district. The first is pulling the board back up into a strategic position and getting everybody kind of out of the day-to-day operations. Second is placing a relentless focus on providing student and teacher resources that we know we all need. And lastly is the financial health of the district. I'm sure we'll talk some more about that with some of our questions, but in order to become a top 5 district in the state, which is my main goal for us, we have to make sure that we have the financial stability to be able to do that. I know we're not in a crisis right now, but I don't want to wait until we're in a crisis to have a plan to grow and accelerate. So I appreciate everyone attending here and online. I'm excited to share our insights with you guys, and as Ashley said too, look forward to your support on April.
I'll echo my fellow candidates' thanks to the students and to all the community who took the time to come out here tonight. My name's Randy Cook. I currently serve as the Vice President on the school board, first elected in 2022. My priorities on the school board have been student safety and security first and foremost, followed of course by a close focus on academics, and of course being a responsible steward of all of our taxpayer funds. This is something that I think all school board members probably share, but that's because it's a common focus, and it's what the school board should be doing at the high level that we sit. Francis Howell is the top performing district in St. Charles County, and we have the lowest tax rate, and that's something that I'm proud of, and I want to keep it that way. Francis Howell has come a long way, certainly in the past 3 or 4 years since the COVID years, but also just in our school board elections. I was just telling Amy here, in 2016, I was in this room for the candidate debate, and there was maybe 12 to 15 people here total. And if you look around this room, we probably have somewhere between 50 and 75 attendees now. The Francis Howell School Board races have become very popular over the last 3 or 4 years now, and that's a good thing. This means that there's people, candidates such as us, and people in past years that care about our students, they're willing to get involved in our community, and not every school district has that. I think students and community alike should be proud that there are people who are willing to run. All of my fellow candidates here, we are up here to make our schools better. We have different ways of doing it, but in the end, we all want the best for our students. I think that's something that Francis Howell is lucky to have, quite honestly. So again, I hope to have everyone, I'm sure in here, will come out on April 8th, but please tell your neighbors and friends to come out on April 8th and vote for the school board.
Alright, so our first question is, what do you think is our school district's biggest strength, and what do you think is its biggest flaw?
So our district's biggest strength is our academics. As I mentioned just a second ago, we have the top academic scores in St. Charles County, actually of all of our surrounding districts, for that matter. We can always be doing better. I think everybody appreciates the idea of continuous improvement. I certainly do, and I think with our new superintendent coming in, he will challenge that. He will challenge the status quo, and we will continue to improve each and every year going forward if we keep the focus on academics. As for our flaw, I don't really like the word flaw, but that's the way the questions were. Opportunity is, we have a lot of misconceptions and really just some bad history with facts with the financial history of the district. I think all of us out here have been knocking doors. You know, occasionally it's not uncommon to knock a door and somebody says, well, gosh, Francis, how the kindergarten count or this or that, something from 20 years ago. All those people are gone, all those decision makers are long gone, and so I always have to explain that, you know, Francis House come a long way since then, we're turning things around. I try to get them involved. But that's something that's going to take a lot of people. I'm sure all the fellow candidates are doing that as well, but that's something that we as a community have to overcome, and it's certainly an opportunity there to help out the district.
I think the strength of our district has a lot to do with just the breadth of offerings that we have here. I grew up here, like I said, I've been engaged, been a student here. I have learned so much just even in the last few months running for the board about all of the things that we offer, and it is incredible. Super proud. From the CAPS program, which I didn't even know was a thing, you know, college prep, AP courses, we've got special education, we've got gifted education, we have Westwood Trail Academy, which was also something I wasn't aware of, vacation station, parents as teachers. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's amazing. And that's such a testament, again, to the power of public schools. So that is a strength, and that is something we should all feel very proud of. And that kind of leads into what I feel like, again, the flaw or the opportunity that we have in the district. And I think that has to do with telling that story. Randy mentioned, too, that we've had some concerns in the community over the past decades about the responsible management of the district, particularly financially speaking, and I think that's gotten so much attention that really just outweighs and outshines all of the incredible things that our students and teachers and administrators are doing every day. So I really want us to be able to communicate with the community and really shine a light on all of the amazing things that we do, and continue to keep them involved so they feel like they want to rally for us too.
I think our greatest strength lies in our students. I am absolutely impressed as I walk around or talk with teachers and students across the district how much they are invested in their education and how much they are understanding that they really are the heart of our community. They deserve the best and the highest quality education that we can possibly provide them to prepare them for the future. And I love every teacher that I have spoken with has shared the same level of commitment to those students. They champion them, they work extra for them, they work harder for them, and our teachers are highly trained and they are certified professionals, and they deliver world-class foundational experiences for those kids. And so that right there is something that I think is the strength of our district. It's the backbone, fostering that academic excellence that we care so much about, and then also that sense of community. One of the biggest challenges that I feel, that I hear, and that seems to be resonating is something that the superintendent search team identified as well, which was our morale and our current reputation. And that is weighing heavily on us as a district. I think there's some divisive rhetoric and negative public perception out there that we can definitely work harder to overcome.
So I believe Francis Howell's biggest strength is its dedicated educators and staff. So I think we'll hit all the flavors this evening. These people work so hard every day to provide a great education for our students, and that commitment is really what makes our district so strong. But it's also the broader community, parents, local businesses, and of course our residents who invest in our schools and truly value the education that we can provide. That collective support really helps ensure that Francis Howell remains a place where students can succeed, which of course for me is the continued North Star, student success. As far as its biggest challenge, we've all kind of spoken to it. Our history of financial missteps is well known in the community. Public mistakes eroded that trust in how taxpayer dollars were spent, and so whether it was poor planning, overspending, or a lack of transparency, I think that was felt across the district. And even though we've been moving in the right direction, earning trust does take back time. So it's not enough to say that things are improving. There has to be continued transparency, continued accountability, and a clear commitment to responsible financial decisions. So that's where my focus will continue to be, to make sure we stay on a path of responsible financial management.
Our next question is, how do you intend to be more inclusive
All right, sounds good.
for low-income families?
All right, so let me state this completely plainly. It is not a kid's fault if they come from a low-income family. It is not the child's fault if they're not born into a family that has financial means. And so we have to look at our current policies and our current way that we talk and work with those students and service those students to make sure that those barriers do not become something that inhibits their ability to learn. So I'm committed to advocating for policies that ensure that every student has access to the resources that they need to succeed, regardless of their parents' financial situation. And this means that we look at our programs like our meal assistance, or that our Friends of Francis Howell, our Friends of Children program is servicing our community. I believe in strengthening partnerships with our community organizations, including St. Charles Libraries, county services, and bringing in all of those extra supports and tutoring and after-school programs and mental health support resources to service those children that need it, regardless of their family income. Transportation's another issue, and then ultimately fostering a community that has a culture of inclusion. We have to realize that money can sometimes divide people, and we need to realize that that doesn't diminish their ability to contribute to our society.
I think we have to be intentional in our policies, all of our policies. And for me, I think part of that has to do with just digging a little bit deeper to understand what all of those issues are. In my position as a leader in the corporate world, I have a team and we manage products. And the foundational piece of that is making sure that we're interviewing with the actual users, that we're talking to the actual users or the actual people who are impacted by these issues that we're trying to solve, so that we can make sure that we're solving the right problems in the right ways. I don't think any of these issues are easy ones to answer. We have finite amount of resources and lots of children to accommodate, right? So we have to be intentional in what we're doing. Sarah mentioned the inclusivity piece. I think that's massive. I know we get a lot of conversation about race when we talk about inclusivity. I know we'll have a question later about DEI and things, but when we talk about inclusion, that's everything that public schools are. Everything, and our responsibility and our honor, honestly, is to take care of all of these students who are in our buildings. Whether or not they come from low-income families or wealthy families or
15 seconds.
Families from different countries or speak different languages, all of that. So we have to be intentional and thoughtful about how we're supporting all of our kids.
I just start with the belief that all students can succeed, regardless of their family income or family history. I think every single student has the ability to succeed, and the more we have that instilled in them when they're during their time here in Francis Howell, I think the better that is. We certainly have programs. We have a very generous community in Francis Howell, be it with volunteers or donations, PTOs. There's certainly a lot of help there for people that need it, but at the end of the day, it's just, I think, a belief, and all teachers have to have it, that every student can succeed no matter what. I think that I'm a product of that somewhat. I'm the first to go to college in my family. We certainly were not raised in a wealthy home by any stretch of the imagination. I won't get into details and spare my parents that. But, you know, once you've kind of lived that, you know that any student can do it. If you put in the work, you put in the time, it makes you resilient. I think in the job market, you know, professional world, a lot of us can tell. If you've come from a tough background where maybe you didn't have a whole lot, those people are hard workers. And those of you out here who know people like that, or maybe that's someone yourself, you know that. And I think those are some of the best people out there. And it's something that we need to remind students of, that no matter what, they can succeed if they put in the work. And it's going to be hard, but if they do it, they will succeed.
So I think a strong school district makes sure that every student has access to the resources they need to succeed, regardless of their financial situation. Francis Howell, of course, definitely provides important support, including meal programs, student services, and it's critical that these programs remain strong and accessible to the families who need them. So that means regularly evaluating how these resources are working, identifying any gaps, which is really important, and really ensuring that families know what is available to them. Support only works if people can have access easily. So I believe no student should fall through the cracks, whether that's in the classroom, in extracurricular activities, or the basic needs that allows kids to really focus on learning. At the end of the day, a great education should be within reach for every single student in Francis Howell, no matter what their background is. My focus will always be on a district that provides opportunities for all students to succeed.
Okay, our next question is, what will you do to ensure financial responsibility in the school district?
So for me, financial responsibility means keeping the focus on students and teachers, of course, while ensuring that our taxpayer dollars are used wisely. Francis Howell, again, as we've stated, has made progress in improving our financial transparency, but our past, our overspending and poor planning have damaged that community trust. So the district needs to continue proving that our financial decisions are responsible, that they're sustainable, and that they're focused on improving education, student success. Are we making sure that is the focus? That means prioritizing classroom resources, competitive teacher pay, and academic programs that directly impact student success. It also means taking a strategic approach to budgeting to ensure stability and continued investment in our district's future. At the end of the day, financial responsibility is about making smart, strategic decisions to keep Francis Howell strong and focused on student achievement.
So, financial responsibility, of course, starts with trust. And over the years, it's clear that we have had a kind of love and hate relationship with how the district has managed the finances. And although it's true, you know, we do have a good cushion right now, we are looking at a financial cliff that we have to start getting very strategic about how we're going to approach over the next several years. I believe that we need to exercise integrity with all of the financial oversight and make sure that we're prioritizing whatever it takes for student success and making sure that our teachers have what they need first and foremost. I have a lot of questions after reviewing some of the recent budgetary documents that were just put out even yesterday on board docs. And I'm excited to ask those questions, and I hope for some clarity as we move forward. I do support identifying and eliminating potential wasteful spending, and I want to make sure that we're also seeking alternative funding sources. I have experience myself writing and receiving grants for education. I believe in, and I've seen other districts build strong community partnerships with sponsorships. And I think that we can even supplement district resources without placing an additional burden on our taxpayers. So I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, financial responsibility, a big topic. Obviously, we've already touched on that in several ways and several questions already. I feel like when I look at the data that we right now are at about a $2,000 per student underspend versus our competitive districts, and that feels not good enough. I know we have teachers who are lacking resources. We've got aging curriculum. We're not a one-to-one technology school. We've lost a lot of paras. We can't hire enough bus drivers. We can't hire enough paras because we're not paying them enough. So the list again goes on and on. So while we're not shuttering the doors at this point, which is good, I think we've got some real headwinds that we're facing, and we have to have some serious strategic planning to make sure that we can continue to thrive and get all of those things. I mentioned earlier, I want us to be a top 5 district. Those are lofty aspirations. But to do that, we have to get serious about our budget. We have to get serious about how we're going to fund these additional resources. We do have overstuffed classrooms right now as well. So it's not an easy problem to solve, but we have to have some strategic planning and thoughtful focus on how to address that. Also, we have to build the trust back in the community so that whatever funding solutions we come up with will be supported by the community. We can't go for any sort of tax increase or anything at this point, for sure, because the community doesn't trust how we'll use that money. So that's where we have to start with rebuilding that trust.
I think financial responsibility at the board level has several prongs. First and foremost, we have to have good processes and policies in place that our staff follow. We have to have the right staff in the right positions. The board are volunteers. We don't work 40 hours a week in the school district administration office, approving expense reports and reviewing all of the different financial documents that pass through there each day. So we have to have good staff, and we have to trust that they can do the work. And then lastly, as an oversight board, we have to ask questions, and we just have to be a check and balance on things when they come before us. In the past, there's been board members who have asked questions and board members who haven't. I ask a lot of questions. A lot of times it's to learn. It's a lot of time it's because I just don't know. But I think that's important because it tells the administration that the board is looking, and so they put a little bit more scrutiny behind anything they bring to the board. And I think overall that makes the district better when the board is engaged, the public learns more, and that's I think how we become more financially responsible. And ideally, the community at large will see that, and then the trust will grow with that over the years.
Okay. Our next question is, how will you help our district retain teachers?
How will I help the district retain teachers? Teacher retention is something that we have struggled with the past several years, really since 2020, 2021. It's been a little bit better the past few years. Pay is a big aspect the last few years. A lot of the 1 to 3 year retention rate is based on our neighboring district. Wentzville put in a program, Come Home to Wentzville, or it was called something like that. And we lost probably over 24 teachers over the last 2 years just to Wentzville alone. The next closest district we lost teachers to was Parkway, and it was half as many as we lost to Wentzville. So Fort Zumwalt was in the same position. So it's an ebb and flow between all the districts around here on who pays more, who pays less, and then teachers who don't necessarily have 10 years of service yet will come and go as they settle down with their family and decide where to live. Other ways to retain teachers, of course, having the administration follow the code of conduct, help with discipline in the classroom, making sure that we're following all those protocols, and then also just the board listening to teachers, being someone who can come, being board members that teachers can come talk to, and we can receive their complaints or their concerns and listen to those.
I have spent a lot of time talking to a lot of teachers in the last few months, and it's been really enlightening. So again, just going back to following my same practices that I asked my team to do in the work world, following that for myself as well, and just getting down to the actual people who are impacted right now. And I will say I've seen 3 main themes. One, Randy mentioned with pay. That's an obvious one. I think all of us want better pay, right? I think that's an obvious one. The second one, though, goes back to what I said initially about my first priority, and that is empowerment for the teachers. I think we've seen a steady chipping away through a lot of policies the last few years of teacher autonomy. And so no one wants to feel like they're working under someone's thumb, and no one wants to feel like they're not respected and valued and treated like the professionals that they are. So lifting that board back up out of some of those day-to-day operations, I think, is key for teachers to feel supported. Also, resources. Again, the aging curriculum, not good enough. I've learned that a lot of teachers are spending a ton of time having to rewrite curriculum to support the Missouri state standards that we have in place that our 10-year-old curriculum no longer reflects. Lots of things like that. And the third thing really, or fourth thing I guess technically, is also thinking about retaining support staff. So when we talk about teachers, obviously that's first and foremost, but we also have custodians, bus drivers, maintenance workers, parents, all of these things that we need to think about.
Ditto to everything Amy just said, and teachers do not teach for the money and the fame and the applause. They teach because they're a special kind of human being who have incredible hearts for children and the learning process. And we must acknowledge and respect that the teachers in this district work incredibly hard, and they don't get the recognition, they don't get the trust, they don't get the support that they deserve, and we can do a lot better. I am a current teacher in another district, and that is exactly why I am the right person for this job. I understand what it's like to be a teacher in the classroom. I understand, after talking with numerous teachers across this district, that it's okay to have a double stuffed Oreo cookie, but it is not okay to have a double stuffed classroom. That was funny. Did I do okay with that? Thank you. Just pulled that one out. Okay, sorry. We can do a lot better, okay? I want to bring my expertise and insights to the board because we owe our teachers. And the reason why is because our teachers impact our students. And if we want to see our students excel and do amazing things, it starts with our teachers. Thank you.
So after speaking to a lot of teachers, speaking to my family members who are teachers, this is going to sound pretty repetitive, but coming back to competitive pay, strong support, and then opportunities for growth. So I thought that was interesting. We were looking at the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education retention rates, but it's interesting the way they write it. Now, for the record, we do outperform the state as well as we beat out Fort Zumwalt, St. Charles, and Wentzville. But this metric, the way they write it, is how many educators remain in the classroom 3 years after their first year of teaching. So DESE says that a key indicator of teacher quality really shows that teachers who stay beyond those early years are far more likely to remain in the profession long term, bringing stability, experience, and consistency to our students. So making sure that we're able to retain those teachers that had decided to make this their lifelong profession and stay around, offering competitive pay so they don't feel pressure to leave for higher salaries elsewhere, giving that strong classroom support to make sure that they not only feel supported by their administration, but that they have the tools, they have the resources to focus on students, and then again, professional development, making sure that teachers can continue to grow in their careers, just like in any other field.
What is a problem or an opportunity that you see in our district, and how do you intend to target it?
So Francis Howell is a strong district, and we should always be looking for ways to make it even stronger. So the great news this morning with Dr. Dominguez coming in as our new superintendent, we have an opportunity to build on a solid foundation already in place. Dr. Rump has provided really solid leadership, steady leadership, and this transition isn't about undoing what's already been done, but it's about making sure that we continue moving forward in the right direction. But change can be challenging. It also creates space, though, for fresh ideas and strong collaboration. By setting clear priorities and working together as a district, we can ensure a smooth transition that maintains stability, enhances programs, and keeps the focus on student success. Personally, a key area for improvement I hope to bring is communication between the board and the community. Parents and taxpayers deserve clear, straightforward updates on what decisions are being made and why. I believe transparency builds trust. We heard that a lot tonight. And trust is what strengthens our schools and our community. So strong leadership, I'm going to continue that, a clear vision, and open communication will ensure that Francis Howell continues to remain the best district in the county and then continue to push for the excellence to be at state level.
I think we've answered this in a couple of different ways, but I think our biggest problem is that we've shifted away, I believe, again, in the last few years with that relentless focus on student and teacher success, on student and teacher resources that they need to be successful. I want us to be forward focused, and to do that, I think we have to address some of the problems that we've talked about so far with the financial health of the district, the resources that we offer, the curriculum, the teacher retention, all of these things kind of lead into that. So it's like one collective problem, but I think ultimately it boils down to just being relentlessly focused on student success and teacher success.
I think one of the opportunities we have, and it's been spoken to many times already this evening, is our financial history. We need to celebrate, we need to be more vocal about how the finances in the district are going now, how things are improving, how they're being managed now. And I think that's really our opportunity. That's how we do it. We message it, we use our communications team to do that, and we start to turn the tide in this community. That Francis Howell is not a mismanaged school district, as some may have thought it was in yesteryear. But things are getting better, things are improving. I think overall that will help the health of the district for decades to come if we can start that now.
All right. The elephant is in the room that we see as one of the biggest problems in our district, or at least that I see, is basically that our priority needs to be on education and not politics. There's polarization that's happening in our community, and it's taking away our focus on our students. It's also taking away from our ability to serve our teachers and our community and our families the way that they deserve to be served. So we must work as a community to remember that we share some of the very same things that we all want. And that's what I had to pass this down, because I have a list. I think we all want to be a distinguished school of excellence, right? Okay. I think we all want to recruit and retain the best educational experts for our students. I think we all want our students to thrive in a safe and healthy academic environment. Yeah. And I think that we need to be able to provide a quality education for every student that is part of our district. And we want to see that the news and the headlines about our district celebrates that excellence. Now, I think we can all agree that we want those things, which is awesome, but we have to put away the politics in order to make that happen. That's the biggest problem in our district.
Our next question is, what is your stance on diversity, equity, and inclusion within the district, and how do you plan to address it?
So Francis Howell's focus should always be on providing every student with a strong education, where hard work creates opportunity and every student can go as far as their drive and their determination will take them. No one should ever be judged by their race, their background, or their beliefs, only by their actions, their work, and their integrity. Now, from a label perspective, of course, many of us have seen the headlines and we have concerns. And here's what matters. Francis Howell does not have DEI labeled positions or programs, which means we are not facing the legal and funding challenges that have come up in other places. That allows us to stay focused on academic excellence and student success. If concerns about fairness arise and I'm elected a board member, I would be able to address them directly and thoughtfully, ensuring all students are treated with respect and have access to the resources that they need to succeed. My priority is to keep Francis Howell a place where students are challenged, teachers are supported, and high standards remain the expectation for everyone. Okay, so our current political climate has decided that we do not like the acronym DEI. Okay. And diversity, equity, inclusion has now turned into something much bigger and, I'll say, debatable to an extent. But we can debate the vocabulary. We can debate the implied meanings. We can work harder to really drill down into what it is that we think something means and doesn't mean, and that's wonderful. Because I think that's part of civil discourse, and that's part of being in a democracy, and that's part of being a best community that we can possibly be. But it doesn't change the fact that certain things are still happening all around us. So, every child deserves to feel safe. Every child deserves to feel valued, and every child deserves to feel respected. That means we have to foster a climate of belonging. We have to promote their mental health and wellness. We have to support our students that are in different or diverse, you choose the word, groups. And when students feel seen and supported, they're going to be better able to learn and thrive. So it doesn't matter what we call it, but the heart is still there. And I believe that every student deserves our hearts.
I will just be plain and say that I really reject the idea that DEI has been weaponized. We are public schools. We inherently have a diverse student population. We inherently have an inclusive culture responsibility. And the idea that any of that is weaponized makes my heart break. It's not just a political construct. It is a reality for our kids. I have worked for a global corporation for, 15 plus years now. And I can tell you our strength is in our diversity in my workplace, and our strength is in our diversity here in this district. So I will champion that because I think it's valued. I've seen how our diverse teams are more creative. They offer different perspectives. They give you opportunities to learn. And in a safe environment in public schools, it's such a cool thing because you just by the simple nature of being exposed to people who look different than you, speak differently than you, learn different than you are growing, right? I am a very big proponent of making sure that we create a culture where we encourage our kids and our teachers and our admin to jump to curiosity before judgment. And I think that will help us support DEI, whatever you want to call it.
So I believe every student is unique and special, and this idea that we need diversity has always been odd to me because I believe we're all diverse just by our very nature. Each person is an individual, we are all unique. I believe public schools are inclusive by their very design. We take students of all walks of life and we educate them. And when it comes to providing equity to students, if an individual student needs a support, we as the public school provide that to them. If those are your definitions of those words, kind of the more traditional dictionary definitions, we do that and I support those. If your definition of DEI is the more recent definition, which you see in the news and in a lot of these programs, and it's, I would call it a rebranding of preferential policies, then no, I do not support that. I'm going to quote a letter here that was issued to Missouri from the United States Department of Education Office of Civil Rights recently. It says, quote, "The law is clear. treating students differently on the basis of race to achieve nebulous goals such as diversity, racial balancing, social justice, or equity is illegal under controlling Supreme Court precedent. All students are entitled to a school environment free from discrimination. And that's the end of that quote, and I agree with that statement.
Considering a bill recently filed by Area State Senator Adam Schnelting, who represents parts of Francis Howell School District, on the topic of defining sex, will you encourage the district to pursue bathroom policies should the bill become law in Missouri?
So you're talking about Senate Bill 76, which I testified in support of, to be fully transparent. If that bill becomes law, I will do what I've done thus far and consult our legal counsel, look at the current legal case law environment, look at any federal rules and case law there, and make a decision for myself based on all of those factors at the time it becomes law.
I think ultimately this will be a state level decision, and we will, to echo Randy, have to consult with attorneys about what we do about it. I do think it opens us up to a lot of sensitive and challenging scenarios. I think we've got a lot of competing interpretations about what privacy means, what safety means, what gender means, what biological sex means. And I think that's why we've struggled to pass laws like this so far, because that does open up some additional challenges. Ultimately, our responsibility is to ensure the safety of all of our students and provide all of our students with dignity. And that is my priority.
Every student, every human that comes into our district deserves dignity. Every human being deserves respect. And my top priority will always be the well-being of all of our students. It might mean that we need to have a lot more open, transparent, and community conversations. If this bill becomes the law, of course, we will comply. That is the law, and that is the state mandate. But there's so many specific parts about this that are unclear. I still think that we're doing a good job of handling it on a case-by-case basis. I don't think we need to enact a complete overarching policy. I think each principal can handle it in their own buildings. Until then, until the state comes forward and gives us a mandate to follow, we're doing a great job right now.
If the bill becomes law, Francis Howell will follow all legal requirements. As a board member, my role is to ensure that any policies the district implements would be legally sound, clearly defined, and effectively enforced. The district's legal team, of course, will review the law, any relevant court rulings, and of course federal guidelines to determine the best path forward. Above all, policies must align with the law while prioritizing student safety, security, and well-being. Until then, my focus will remain on making sure any policy changes are handled responsibly and with the best interests of students, our community, and the families in mind.
Okay, so we're now going to move into some of our questions from our audience. And before we start those, I just want to again emphasize the importance of respect and orderly behavior. Hold your applause till the end. Don't speak over candidates, etc. So still 90 seconds. We'll still do the 15-second warning. Let's begin.
Our first audience question is, if a constituent you disagree with emails you with a concern, moving forward, do you respond with, or do you ignore it or respond it with potentially this may be a microaggression toward you?
We're all professionals here, and I'm perfectly comfortable having a conversation with someone who disagrees with me. I'm perfectly comfortable having a conversation with a person who might have some microaggressions towards me. And if we can agree on maybe some foundational civility within that conversation, I think that we can reach an understanding of some extent. Maybe it's to agree to disagree, or maybe there's something I can learn from that, or they can learn from that, and maybe the situation, whatever it might be, might just simply need to be communicated. So I'm open to any and all communication from any constituent to talk about anything in this role.
I think part of the responsibility of building community is to respond to questions from the community. So I would expect that we should respond as often as possible, particularly if there's an issue that seems particularly concerning to whoever's sending that email. I also feel that online communications, whether it's social media or by email, can sometimes be misconstrued. So especially when there's a real concerning issue that someone's approaching us with, I think phone calls are great. I think reaching out and having in-person conversations, and even if it is just via phone call, is really important. I think it's very easy to get lost in the humanity or disconnect from the humanity of people when you're behind a screen. And to have real understanding and real productive conversation, it takes some reaching out and just connecting as person to person. I think we have to assume the best intentions, and when people are hurting, they're not always their best selves online. So responding to emails is great, as long as you respond to the person. I think that's the most important piece of that, regardless of the channel that you use.
I think a lot of the emails that the board receives, or at least that I receive, are nothing more than that. They're comments. So if there's a question mark or a question, I always try to respond, although I'm sure I'm not perfect. I'm human like everyone else, but I certainly read all emails, and all of that feedback is taken into consideration. There's a very small segment of the community that emails the board, many of whom are probably in this room tonight. There is occasionally some new names that come across, and we always love those emails because it's someone we haven't heard from. It's someone who's has a concern that's probably outside of the normal things that are discussed, be it on social media or in patron comments every month. And those are concerns I love to hear, because those are things that we haven't necessarily talked about in public yet, or maybe we're actively working on it, and I always try to respond to those whenever possible. There's certainly some emails we cannot respond to because they relate to personnel or something along those lines, and that's always a challenge for us as board members when people complain about a particular student or incident going on, and we try to route that to the right place. But certainly whenever possible, if there's a genuine question in there, not the rhetorical
15
type,
seconds.
but certainly try to answer those.
Yeah, so responding to emails, of course, is definitely expected as an elected official. I do agree with Sarah. As long as we can maintain some level of civility, I'll be honest, I'm not sure what the strict definition of a microaggression is, but I assume as long as we have student success as the goal, right? At some point, we are going to disagree. That is what distinguishes the difference between everybody sitting here. We all are doing this because ultimately we want to see our school district do well. We want to see our students succeed. But how we get there and the approach we take is where you'll find the differences. And so I imagine that'll continue, but as long as we can have a civil discussion that is free of microaggressions or in a civil manner, I think that's productive to hear, both sides of the picture.
Okay, our next audience question is, what is your stance on school vouchers?
So I'll answer this one first. I've spoke about this a couple of times. The November elections, we had candidates put themselves up. They were very clear about what they wanted to do and what they wanted to accomplish. And one of those things was school vouchers. And our community wholeheartedly voted them into their positions. So at this point, we have to be prepared that that's what they're going to move forward with. As a school board member, we cannot change any of those things. That's not our decision. What we can do, though, is make sure, again, back to student success, that Francis Howell is the #1 choice for our students. If we are offering the best education possible, then this is where our families, this is where our community, this is where our students will want to be. So as long as we continue that really, really laser focus on providing the best education, I believe that will really be the top priority for me as I move forward as an elected official.
I wholeheartedly support public education. That means that I do not support vouchers. If we don't have a choice, then we don't have a choice, fine. But I would hope that before we get pushed into the voucher arena, they would look at what just happened to Arizona with the $1.2 billion debt that their voucher system just put their state into. That equates to about $300,000 per school. My numbers might be a little off here, but I think that we can look at Arizona as a cautionary tale before we jump into that pool. I believe in public education because I believe it brings the best people together, and the best education is to be offered through a public education, and I stand by that.
I don't support vouchers or anything that diverts funds from our public schools.
I think this question of vouchers, as I'm sure everyone in this room knows, or maybe not, the school board doesn't vote on school vouchers. That's something the state legislature does. I think when these type of topics are brought up in a school board debate, it only adds to something Sarah mentioned earlier, which is political division within our school district. This isn't something that the school board votes on. So only talking about this and passing resolutions, as boards have done in the past, which we've since rescinded, only serves to polarize our school district. What we can do is focus to make Francis Howell, frankly, the best district we can in the event that some sort of voucher program is passed. We want to be a destination district. We want students to come to Howell, and that's the role of the school board. That's what we would do, is make sure Francis Howell is, and it sounds Pollyannish, is the best it can be. And that's, as a school board member, that's how we would tackle the idea of vouchers. I'm certainly a proponent of public education. Our nation's founders were proponents of public education. They felt it was important to protect the rights and liberties of the people. I am here in this role because I support public education. I was attended public schools all throughout my childhood and chose to send my own children here. So I'm a big supporter. I want to see Francis Howell succeed, and that's how we can tackle the voucher problem.
I do not believe that anybody who supports vouchers should be on the Board of Education in a public school system.
Our next audience question is, as an educator working in St. Louis County, I would take a $15,000 pay cut to work for the FHSD. You all mentioned recruiting and supporting quality teachers. How do you plan to do this when teacher salaries are not competitive? As an educator working in St. Louis County, I would take a $15,000, sorry, it might be paid out. Pay cut? Sorry. Pay cut, okay. To work for Francis Howell School District. You all mentioned recruiting and supporting quality teachers. How do you plan to do this when teacher salaries are not competitive?
I think what that question is saying, I didn't write it, but I think what that question is saying is, how do you recruit teachers from districts who pay more than $15,000 more to get teachers in the door?
So there aren't many other districts who pay $15,000 more per teacher here in St. Louis. There may be one, and the teacher salary schedule, for those who don't know, there's lanes across the top, depending on what type of education a teacher has, and then there's steps depending on, ideally, how many years they've been here. And so depending on where a teacher falls on that scale, in our district, which is another district, which is going to have a completely different rubric, perhaps the difference for that particular teacher is $15,000, and it may have to do with, if a teacher comes from a district with 15 years of experience, Most districts only honor up to 10 years, so you would be taking a cut from a 15-year salary down to a 10 if you're going to move to Howell or a number of our neighboring districts do this. We give as much money as we can each year. This past year we've given an average of 9% increase. We're now the top paying district for starting salary. So we're trying to tackle this problem. And as I mentioned earlier, there's an ebb and flow between districts around St. Louis. We all compete for the same educators, and that's just part of the natural business cycle of the community here, or any business or sector for that matter, is there's always going to be somebody higher and there's going to be somebody lower. What we have to do is make sure we have a welcoming culture. Howell's still a destination district for teachers. We're still hiring teachers. We don't have any openings. There's no teacher positions that have gone unfilled here the last few years. So we're still a destination district, and I think that's what we're going to be for years to come.
I think that's a multifaceted approach. Pay, I think we talked a little bit about this in an earlier question, so pay obviously always important. We should always be wanting to pay our teachers more and trying to pay our teachers more. That funding has to come from somewhere, so that gets back to that whole financial health conversation. In lieu of being able to do that, we have other options too, and I know you mentioned culture. We may have different views on what an attractive culture looks like to teachers, but I think supporting teachers, providing up-to-date resources, making sure that they feel valued and not micromanaged is a key piece of that too. I think about this with jobs for anybody, right? If you look at competitive jobs, you have to weigh a lot of different things, but most everybody wants to know, like, what's it like working there? Like, what does it feel like day to day? Because that matters a lot to people. So that's the community building and the healing that I want to focus on. I think to be a destination district, we have to do a lot of different things, but I really do think that it starts with having a sense of community, a sense of empowerment and trust for our teachers.
Yeah, so I spoke to competitive pay, so, one of my knee-jerk responses is, let's close that gap. My sister is a teacher, and we've talked in depth about this. She has got a passion for students and a passion, that Sarah talked about. She feels like, this is where she's supposed to be. But at the end of the day, she has to pay bills like everybody else, and $15,000 is a good chunk of money. So on top of making sure they feel like that they are at a place that they not only feel supported in the classroom, that they are supported by their administration, that they have a level of empowerment in running their class in a really productive way, that pay still does matter, as well as professional development. Making sure they have those opportunities to feel like they're constantly learning and growing in their career, and that they have a goal that they can achieve over the long term.
So, what's the most amount of steps a teacher can get in Francis Hill right now? It's 8, isn't it? Yeah. 8 or 10? It's 8, thank you. So, a teacher that works in another district, knowing that the most they'll get out of Francis Howell is 8 years, that does not make bringing them in attractive. And as a board, we need to really think about that. Because when you have a young teacher, a new teacher, a novice teacher, the first 5 years of their education is really in learning classroom management. They're learning the curriculum, they're learning the policies and stuff like that at the district. They're really assimilating kind of into whatever that culture looks like. And so having a teacher within the first 5 years, we do invest a significant amount of money into that beginning teacher training kind of program. So no, it's not going to be attractive to a teacher. I'm speaking as a teacher. There's a sweet spot where if you're going to move, you need to move by about your 10th year. After that 10th year, your salary kind of starts going up, but no district in the area is going to give you the years. If we want to open that as a possibility, that's something that we could do as a board. We need to talk about it. There's value to it. Bringing in experienced teachers could mean a lot of benefits to our district, like classroom management being not considered, discipline, etc. There's a lot of bonuses, but it needs to be talked about.
With personal political agendas on the rise against minority groups, will you focus on personal political agendas or focus on building FHSD into a better place for everyone?
That one. No. Wait, what was the question?
Will you focus on personal political agendas or focus on building FHSD into a better place for everyone?
Yeah, okay, I can do that now. Yeah, sorry. I have no political agenda. I support public schools. I'm open and I'm honest about that. I'm a teacher. I'm in the classroom and I have no plans on leaving my classroom. I love my job. I love the district that I work for during the school year, and I'm very eager to apply all of my knowledge and all of my experience into making Francis Howell as best as it can be. I'm coming into this with a comparative lens, which means that I have worked for another district for 10 years and I've seen a lot of things work and not work in that district. There's some things that I think would severely help and benefit Francis Howell. So me getting elected to the board means I'm bringing in a lot of that experience and hopefully serving this community with that expertise in mind. I don't have a political agenda. I don't take money from all my people who have donated to my campaign, other than Francis Howell Forward, which is a group of moms who are contributing to help make Francis Howell a better place moving forward, and St. Charles Community, that's a long acronym, you guys. Who just want to see public schools thrive, really, right? All my donations are small, moms, dads, families, friends, etc. I don't take money from anybody else because I don't need to. I'm here to do the best I can do, and I have no agenda other than to serve this community and make it the best it possibly can.
So what the response I would expect from everybody here is no. There's no political agenda. I have no political background. I'll tell you, my main motivation, ultimately, other than my kids obviously being in this district for the next decade plus, is creating future-ready students. So I grew up in a day and age where everyone had to go to university. Now, we did have one of the best public schools in Mississippi, but I'm not sure how much you know about Mississippi. We're not breaking records nationally, but I did have a really, really great public education system. Unfortunately, one of the things I felt like they always did was only pushed the university track. And so for many, that really just wasn't the best path for them. So when I talk about future-ready students, that means whether students are going off to university, whether they're going to a trade school, whether they're going straight into a workforce, owning their own business is an option, or even joining the military, I really want to make sure student success is a diverse range of options, and that we present all of those to our students, because those are the students who are going to go out and become our community and make our community stronger. But of course, politics and the school board has no place for that.
Yes, +1 to what Sarah and Ashley both said. No political agenda. I don't know that anybody that's getting onto the board really goes in for, again, like the fame and the fortune either. It's a volunteer position. I think we all, in our own ways, want what's best for kids. Our Francis Howell mission talks about empowering kids to be lifelong learners prepared for the future. I think that's brilliant. I love it. From my perspective in corporate world, again, and working for global companies, I understand how important it is to instill values of curiosity with our kids. That is a culture piece, and I would love to see that reflected from the board on down, all around. There's a lot of political talk, and I know there's a lot of people trying to make things sound scarier than they really are, and I get back to that piece about being human and having human connections. I think we all, Sarah listed out, grounding us in what we have in common and what values we all share as far as connecting and serving our kids and serving our teachers and our community. That's the focus. I want everybody to feel like they have dignity when they're in our schools, and I want everyone to feel like they have opportunity in our schools. And what I've seen is the power of just providing some tools with curiosity again and jumping to ask questions instead of judging, and opening up those conversations instead of assuming that you know what's happening and shutting those things down.
No, there's no personal political agenda here. I don't know how to make that any clearer. The answer is no.
Our next question is, what is your perspective about holistic education, and what would you do towards that if elected?
Holistic education. I believe we should, whenever these questions about should the school district do this, or should we start shifting our focus to this or that, I think it's imperative for the school board and the administration to go back to our roots, which is the Missouri Constitution. And our mission in the Constitution is to educate students to protect the rights and liberties of the people. That's why the public school districts were founded. Beyond that, we can go into how the state legislature set up the school districts, what the school board's role is, and from there. But I think there needs to be a relentless focus on reading and some of the core subjects, writing and arithmetic. And then from there, we get into more of the sciences where you learn the knowledge that comes with learning the first three of reading, writing, and math. And you move into the sciences and the social studies from there. But when you start getting into whole child or holistic education, you start, I think, impeding on the family's role. So I think schools need to be very cautious about that. We need to focus on, we need to stay in our lane, we need to do academics, and anything outside of that needs to be very carefully measured or evaluated and done with extreme caution, if at all.
See, I just don't get that. I feel like these are little humans in our care and not machines. So absolutely part of teaching our kids is helping them with life skills. I don't care, again, if you don't want to call it social emotional learning or holistic, I don't care. The labels are just making me absolutely crazy, to be honest with you. Like, let's connect back to common sense and logic and reason and humanity, and just understand that little people need support. Little people don't know how to handle big emotions, and I think there's a lot of adults actually who would have benefited from a little bit more holistic education growing up, to be honest with you. So yeah, I would support. I think when we bring, just like again in my job, like we ask people to bring their whole selves to work. Like, I don't just expect my team to come in and just, here's your task list, do your things. No, I build relationships with my team. I'm interested in what's going on with them. I talk to them, I counsel them. Like, that's just being a human. And when you're talking about little kids, that teachers that are spending 8 hours a day with these kids, you better hope that they're spending some time teaching them how to be a good human and how to handle their emotions. So the fact that we're like, you can't do both things, I reject that. Like, you absolutely can and you must.
Teacher here. Our job is to prepare our students for the future. And that means that by the time they leave our schools, they are holistically prepared for that future. I'm lucky enough that I work in a district where they really emphasize that we can be in a partnership with our parents. So I don't think we need to tread water or be careful. If there's a parent that has a concern or they have some boundaries, I can respect that. There's no problem there. The more important thing is, what does the child need? So we know that developmentally from kindergarten through 12th grade, they change a lot. And we need to be prepared. We are prepared as educators to help them navigate those changes academically, socially, behaviorally, and emotionally. That's what we need to help our children become good citizens in the future. So if that looks like citizenship, if that looks like social emotional learning, you can call it whatever you want, use any alphabet soup acronym you want, okay? If that looks at behavioral norms or core values, as some school calls them, every school has and should have that ability to think of the child as a whole person and work with them as a whole person.
this one, I'm going to take the opportunity to brag on Daniel Boone Elementary and hope that my daughter is young enough that this will not get back to her. You know, I really respect the way they handled a very particular situation, because this goes back to every student is different. They included me as a parent with full transparency and gave me a call and said, hey, do you think it would be okay if your daughter participated in this extra social emotional learning? Now, this is where it becomes a collaboration between the parent and the teacher. What they don't know about my little girl is how empathetic she is, and how she sits in a circle and hears everybody's stories of some really hard struggles they're going through. My little girl's going to hold on to it, carry it, and it's going to drag her down. I've seen it happen even with stories just one-on-one with her friends. And so as a parent, I was able to say, oh, no, I'm sorry. She's just not a good candidate for that situation. So I think right now, at least in my experience, specifically with Daniel Boone, again, a shout out to Principal Armour, I think the way they're handling it very carefully with full parent engagement and permission is something that I would hope to see continued.
Our next question, and our last question. In this race, we have seen candidates block parents and community members. How can we have open communication with this practice? So how can we have open communication with parents and community members?
I haven't blocked anything. I've actually had some really amazing conversations, and a lot of them with people who are not big fans of mine. I've reached out and direct messaged a number of people, both on Nextdoor and on Facebook, and offered to have coffee. Let's go talk. You're going to hear me say this again and again, that I think one-on-one conversations are wildly different and more productive than anything online ever will be. I think there's a lot of fear in the community. I think there's a lot of distrust in the community, and I think there's a lot of disconnect in the community, and that's something that's really important for me to work on, is bringing people back together and reminding everybody that we probably have a lot more in common than we do different opinions of things, and we have to start with those conversations. So I've been fortunate for the most part. I know there are some relatively salacious ads against me out there, but one-on-one conversations that I've had with people have been pretty amazing, and we've come to an understanding, and I've told people, like, I'm just not that scary of a person. I'm just kind of, love people and want us to all just get along a little bit better. So yeah, I don't love blocking. If people are being rude and completely threatening, that's one thing. So obviously you have to have some respect for yourself and set some boundaries, but that hasn't been the case for me, fortunately.
Sure, I'll go on this one next. I've never blocked anyone, so I don't practice that. I do recognize that it's the right of anybody who's not already an elected official, and there's some caveats there I won't get into, but it's your right to block someone if you choose to do it, and I don't blame anyone for doing it. I have been blocked from other people's sites, other organizations' sites, and that's their right to do it. That's the way I see it. Your site is your front yard, as I like to call it. And if you want to allow people to come in your front yard or on your sidewalk and spew all sorts of nasty lies about you, then so be it. But if you don't want to, I don't blame you one bit, because there's only so much rebuttal that any of us have time to give on Facebook or social media, and it's a lot of it's the same dozen or two people who are just going to come there and just relentlessly pound you on social media, and so I don't blame anyone at all for blocking, although I don't do it myself.
All right. If you've been to my Facebook page, you have pretty much figured out I don't block anybody. There are people I probably coulda, woulda, and shoulda blocked, but I decided to not to let those snapshots in time to exist, because they're honest and they're open, and they might be uncomfortable, but they're not dangerous. And that's important to determine the distinction between that we can handle discomfort and we can handle a little bit of discourse that we might not agree with, but that doesn't necessitate, for me personally in my front yard, the blocking of people. So if you go on my Facebook and check it out, it's a eat some popcorn kind of situation. Because you'll get a little sample of everybody, but you know, it's good because, right, it's good. You know what, let them talk, let them say what they need to say, because oftentimes, like Amy said, they're not, you know, when you're on a screen, people say things that are they're not gonna say in real life, right? We learned that by canvassing, you know, you see some people in real
15
life.
seconds.
They're really actually pretty nice and they're willing to have a conversation. So I say let it be. I don't block anybody. I don't delete any comments. And if you are bored and you have nothing better to do, visit my page and you will have some entertainment for a while.
So it's understood elected officials shouldn't block people, and I have stated that I will not. But as a candidate running a campaign, I did make the decision to block a page and its participants after repeated harassment. This wasn't about silencing disagreement. Plenty of people disagree with me on my page up until this very day, and that's fine. What's not fine? Mocking my appearance, ridiculing how I speak, calling me AI, or highly synthetic bubblegum music teen idol. That's not debate, it's harassment. Now, before anyone was blocked, there was a pattern. Multiple posts egged on by a page encouraging people to go comment on these ads. They attacked one of my supporters for his religious beliefs on my page. Some people told me that they were afraid to comment publicly because they knew they would be next. That's intimidation. So let's talk about the tone that page set. The cover image, it was a cartoon showing a school board battle with opposing views. Of course, the one that was not their view was waving a Confederate flag. If that wasn't clear enough, racial slurs like cracker are thrown around. But I want to be clear. Blocking a handful of people did not keep anyone from accessing my content. My website, my Instagram, and email open. If I'm elected, your biggest issue with me is during my campaign, I didn't give everyone unlimited access to mock my appearance or where I'm from. Then please, step out from behind your keyboard, show up to a board meeting, and instead of yelling at me from behind the scene to fix my hair, you can do it face to face.
Coming out tonight. We'd like to thank the candidates and the audience members all for being here. We want to remind you to fill out the exit poll before you leave. It's posted around this room as well as in the hallway.